All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities press legislative briefing, where we're going to talk a little bit about our priorities for the 2026 legislative session. Before we kick off, want to first off really thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Secondly, we'll be taking some questions at the end, and you can use either the Q&A function in Zoom or the hand raising function in Zoom, and we'll figure out how to manage all of that. So it should be a good dialogue. So to formally kick us off, I'm going to turn it over to Keri Johnson, who is this year's CGMC President, and she is also a member of the St. Peter City Council. Councilwoman Johnson, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bradley, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As Bradley said, I am Keri Johnson, and I'm a St. Peter City Councilor and President of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities this year. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the CGMC, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy organization representing more than 110 cities outside of the Twin Cities metropolitan area. We advocate for the unique needs of greater Minnesota cities on issues such as local government aid, economic development, environment, transportation, and more. The CGMC is led by a board of directors made up of mayors, city councilors, and city staff members from across greater Minnesota. I want to begin by recognizing that there is a lot going on in our state that has put us in the national spotlight recently, with several highly contested elections coming up this year as well. The upcoming legislative session is sure to be a busy one. That being said, the CGMC's attention will be centered on ensuring the legislature focuses on what they can do to help cities thrive. It is only with diligent, proactive, and bipartisan action that we can ensure the critical needs of our families and communities are met, which should inarguably be a top priority for lawmakers during this upcoming legislative session. Now, I'd like to turn it over to CGMC's Executive Director, Bradley Peterson, again, who will discuss our priorities for this upcoming legislative session. Thank you. Bradley?
Thank you. As Councilperson Johnson noted, there are going to be a lot of issues at the legislature competing for legislators' attention. And so what we're here to talk about today are some of the things that we're going to be bringing forward that we will want them to focus on. While it's not a budget session, there are numerous ways in which the legislature can both be helpful to cities and also harmful in their impacts to cities. While there are a lot of issues that we'll be working on and tracking, there are a couple that we wanted to highlight for you today. First off, in terms of our priority list, is protecting local government aid. Secondly, is passing a capital investment package that includes significant funding for water and wastewater treatment, as well as lead line removal and replacement. And finally, we're going to be asking the legislature to reject overreaching one-size-fits-all housing mandates. These are going to be our top priorities through session. As I said, we're going to be talking about a lot of other things at the legislature, but these are going to be our main messages. And so to talk about local government aid, I'm actually going to turn it back to Councilwoman Johnson. Keri?
Yes, if you are at all familiar with the CGMC, you will not be surprised to hear that one of our top priorities is local government aid, or LGA for short. LGA is critical to restraining property taxes, reducing inequities between communities, and ensuring that all cities in our state are able to provide high-quality services and important quality of life amenities to their residents and businesses. So in St. Peter, where I'm from, local government aid makes up 36% of our general fund budget. Our reliance on LGA is very significant and its impact is enormous. It directly affects our ability to provide essential city services, meet state mandates, and relieve pressure on property taxes for residents as well as business owners. Given the importance of LGA to cities across the state, we were shocked when the chair of the Senate Tax Committee proposed a cut to LGA this last legislative session. We're grateful for the work of the House and Senate members across the political spectrum who spoke out in opposition and defeated that proposal. That being said, funding for LGA has not kept pace with rising expenses and inflation, and cities are feeling the effects. This past fall, the importance of the LGA program was front and center as cities set their property tax levies for 2026. Inflationary funding and increased state mandates are putting significant pressure on city budgets. And next up, we are going to move it over to Liz for water infrastructure. Elizabeth Wafel is our resident expert on water infrastructure, so I will turn it over to Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. My name is Elizabeth Wafel, and I'm here to talk about the need for water infrastructure funding. Funding for water infrastructure projects is one of the CGMC's top priorities this year because it's one of the most pressing issues facing our cities across the state. Clean drinking water and reliable wastewater services are foundational to healthy communities. We recognize and applaud the investments that the legislature and the governor made last year in these programs, but more funding is needed to address the ever-growing backlog of water and wastewater projects across the state, and equally, if not more important, to keep the lead line replacement program moving forward. It is absolutely essential that the legislature provide funding to the Public Facilities Authority, also known as the PFA, grant programs and loan programs. Specifically, we are seeking $225 million in total funding for PFA programs to bolster water and wastewater infrastructure. Most of the expense to upgrade and build new municipal wastewater treatment or drinking water treatment facilities falls on individual communities and their citizens. And the costs are enormous, often stretching into the tens of millions of dollars. That's why this session, we are advocating for a bonding bill that includes significant investment in grants and programs that support water infrastructure needs. But I really want to focus and highlight the need for investment in lead line replacement. The federal government is requiring that all community water systems remove lead drinking water lines by 2037. Minnesota is ahead of the curve. In 2023, we created a nation-leading program to identify and replace those lead lines at no cost to homeowners by 2033 and provided $240 million to match federal funding. Unfortunately, that initial investment is running out, and the program will run out of money in 2026, at the end of 2026, if the legislature does not make a significant investment in this program. Failure to fund the program could result in the loss of the 2027 construction season for lead line replacement and would deal a significant setback to this program. To prevent this setback, we are seeking $250 million in funding for lead service line replacement. Our cities are willing to step up and do their part in addressing water infrastructure and lead line replacement, but it is incredibly difficult to pay for these massive projects without financial assistance from the state. For one example, I'm now going to turn it over to Mayor Kathleen Backer to talk about the lead line replacement program in New Ulm, Minnesota. Mayor Backer, off to you. Mayor Backer, you're on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathleen Backer, the mayor of the city of New Ulm, a community of 14,000 people located in south central Minnesota. Like many other cities across Minnesota, we have completed an inventory of our pipe system and have identified that 317 of them need to be replaced because they are lead. And in addition to that, we have another 2,162 lines that are unknown at this point. We estimate that each of those lines replacement would cost between $12,000 and $25,000. Taking an average of $18,000 per line, we are looking at $6.9 million to replace the lead lines. And that is a significant, in fact, sticker shock. But we reach out to the state of Minnesota, to our legislators, for financial assistance. And there is a program in place, as Elizabeth mentioned, and New Ulm applied for that. However, because so many other cities also have the same issues that we do, the amount of monies that were allocated to us is $1 million. Now, we're appreciative of 1 million, but we say only 1 million because we still have an additional $6 million that is needed to offset the cost. We're worried about what it would mean if legislature did not support a bonding bill. Our local residents or property owners aren't able to take on that burden of replacement of the lead lines. Now, the city of New Ulm is committed. We've completed that inventory, and our city was founded in 1854, so we know a lot of our infrastructure, the integrity of it is questionable, and are working in all different areas to make sure that we're addressing that on a very aggressive schedule. However, back to lead lines. Back in 1971, the city council voted not to use lead anymore for our water system. So we are now working on our plan. Like I said, we are a board addressing this issue. We've putting together our plan with specifications and made our priorities daycare, schools, churches, and other gathering places. We are hopeful that legislature will support a bonding bill that will provide significant funding to help us with that additional 6 million. The city of New Ulm also has skin in the game in that we have to allocate funds to take care of our share of replacing those lead lines. Please support funding a bonding bill for the replacement of the lead water lines, our water and wastewater infrastructure systems across the state. This is not a situation where this is a want. This is a need, a very basic need. Clean water is basic for our healthy community, and we're asking for your consideration and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Finally, in terms of our issues that we wanted to touch on today, I want to talk a little bit about housing. This has been a topic of significant discussion over the last several years at the legislature. As we know, a group of advocates and some legislators have been unsuccessful over the last several years in pushing for a usurpation of local decision-making when it comes to things like local zoning. And we expect that this will be an issue again this session. CGMC continues to question the efficacy and necessity of these solutions to our housing challenges. A lot of cities, as we're going to be showing the legislature here in the next couple of weeks, a lot of cities are already doing many of the things that the advocates would mandate from St. Paul. And they're doing it without direction from St. Paul, and they're doing it in dialogue with their local residents and other stakeholders. They're doing it on their terms, and they're making decisions that are right for their communities. And we think that that's the right way to go. And so we're going to be showing the legislature over the next several weeks, like I said, numerous examples of cities that are doing just that. As the discussion goes on, we're going to be urging the legislature to focus on things that we do know will help with the development of more housing. First off, we are advocating for $20 million for the Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant Program. This was a grant program that was recently created. The first round of funding actually went out this last summer. And so that bucket needs to be refilled. This money helps local communities pay for a portion of the infrastructure related to housing development. And this is one of the things that we hear is the greatest challenges in terms of cost to developing new housing. Secondly, there's a couple of non-cost items related to tax increment financing and making that more usable for housing, as well as some changes that we'll be proposing to the state's housing tax credit. So there's some non-cost policy things that the state can also do to support housing. We don't know where this discussion will go. We're engaged with legislators and committee chairs on what we can do to increase the stock of housing in communities across the state. But we are certainly skeptical that any preemptive idea on the part of the legislature will work or is appropriate. So as we wrap up, As Councilwoman Johnson indicated, there is going to be a lot this session. There's a lot that is putting our state in the national spotlight. But we're going to be working with legislators and our communities and our members to keep the focus on what they can do to help create thriving communities in greater Minnesota. And from our perspective, the top lines of that are pretty simple. It's protect local government aid, it's pass a bonding bill that includes water and wastewater funding, it's pass funding for lead line replacement and removal, and finally, to put aside one-size-fits-all mandates when it comes to housing. So we really appreciate your time today. We appreciate you, your interest in our issues. Before we take questions, I just want to say also that as session goes forward, please feel free to use CGMC as a resource. If you're looking for our perspective on things or context on any of the issues that we work with, we're happy to respond. And also too, if you are interested in talking to individual cities about issues, we're happy to try to put you in touch with them. So with that, as I indicated, you can either use the Q&A function of the Zoom or raise your hand and we'll unmute you and call on you if there are any questions about anything that we've discussed so far.
All right, so everyone who raises their hand, I will allow you to talk and then refer to you by what seems to be your title on there, so you know that's who we're talking to. So we have Mary Murphy from Forum News.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So you mentioned, that there are a lot of issues that will be competing for the legislators' attention this session. I'm just wondering if somebody could explicitly state, what issues in particular you're concerned there will be too much attention on.
Well, I don't know that we're concerned that it'll be too much, but I think the issue is, as we know, I think there will be legislative interest in responding to the federal surge in immigration enforcement. I think there will be a lot of talk about fraud. I think that there will be, a lot of discussion around gun control. Those are all big issues. Those are all important issues. But we're also going to be trying to make sure that legislators are thinking about the issues that are important to communities in greater Minnesota, protecting local government aid, passing a capital investment program, and not going down the road of one-size-fits-all mandates.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we have Brian Arola. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, yeah, I'm Brian Arla at MinPost. I've seen some lawmakers. My impression is that they're sort of trying to set the expectations kind of low for what might get done this session as we get close to it. So I guess what do you feel the chances are of a bonding bill actually getting passed this session?
Yeah, well, I think that there's no reason they can't pass a bonding bill. The committees have been out, touring the state, looking at projects. And so there's a lot of demand that we know. There's a lot of big ticket things like water and wastewater that needs attention. And I think that, as the legislative session progresses, we would urge them to remain focused on passing a bonding bill. Don't leave it to the very, very end, because that's when bonding bills don't pass. There's no reason from our perspective that they can't pass a bonding bill this year.
All righty. Sorry, one moment. We have Tolkinen. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Karen Tolkinen. I am with the Star Tribune. And I was wondering if you can talk about the impact on property taxes around Greater Minnesota. What have the Greater Minnesota cities been seeing and in terms of having to increase property taxes, and how are the homeowners dealing with that?
Sure. Well, I can maybe give the beginning of an answer, and then I'd like to turn it over to Councilwoman Johnson and Mayor Backer for their comments. We did see over this last year a pretty significant discussion around property tax increases as cities were setting their levies for 2026. I think they were higher than what we've seen in the past in terms of the trend. And I think that's a function of a couple of things. One, just inflationary costs, all the things that families are struggling with and businesses are struggling with paying for. Cities also have inflationary costs, the cost of employees and health insurance and building materials, and all of that costs more than it did previously. And then secondly, cities are responding to and trying to navigate things like paid family medical leave and earned safe and sick time that the legislature passed recently. So from that perspective, I think I might turn it over to Councilwoman Johnson first, and then Mayor Backer if they want to add anything in terms of the property tax situation in their communities.
Yes, thank you for the question. Last fall, the City of St. Peter, our council discussed our levy, primarily what we have some big projects, and of course, if we get some bonding funding, that will certainly help relieve some pressure on property taxes coming up. But going back to this last fall, we were able to keep our property tax levy increase at 6.9%. That doesn't cover all of our expenses. We use some of our reserves within a policy to cover the remainder. But we do have a big project for the City Hall coming up. So again, the reliance on LGA is significant. It does help relieve pressure on property tax owners like our residents and business owners who own their properties. Mayor
Mayor
Backer?
Backer?
For the city of New Ulm, we were also able to offset some of the anticipated property tax increase by going to our reserves. But the cost of doing business, as Bradley indicated, is really a big factor for our increase. We had an increase of almost 600,000 related to retaining a good quality staff, related to that insurance that has increased significantly. I think all of us across the state have seen that, not only as property owners, business owners as well. And then that family leave program also impacted the increase that we had.
All right, other questions?
Not currently seeing any hands raised.
Well, we can give it a beat.
Yeah.
And otherwise,
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we have any hands raised. But to reiterate what Bradley said, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And Bradley, do you have any closing comments?
just a great thank you for joining us this morning. A thank you to Councilwoman Johnson and Mayor Backer for adding the perspectives from St. Peter and New Ulm. We really appreciate your attention and interest in our issues, and we're always here to help if we can. We love working with members of the press. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.